Hey friends, I am at the end of another day and it feels like I'm staggering because it's just, whoo, does it ever keep coming? So I had a really interesting uh, day, put it this way, but it started with a really interesting morning. And so I had felt this sense of, well, just a kind of eye of the needle moment, I suppose. A moment of, we finished staging the show today. So that's a big moment. And none too soon because we're doing a full run of the show tomorrow. And so there's this sense of, that there was a sense of, like, are the wings going to fall off the plane? Is something going to happen? And in myself, I think I was aware. I became aware this morning and last night too, of just having conflict within me. And I woke up this morning and I really made a distinct choice to not to listen to that not to let that conflict play out. I basically made a choice that, so I wanted to dive right into work this morning because there was a bunch of things on my mind, and I was like, no, that's not what I need to do. What I need to do is do my qigong routine, do my meditation, stick with the things that I know are the core of everything. And it was a real effort, and there was a sense of, like, wanting to alleviate the conflict within me, wanting to vent the energy that was headed towards conflict in the doing of stuff. And that's a pattern that I've noticed many times. When I feel agitation, when I feel, it can be frustration with another person or with my circumstances, with myself, wherever that frustration or wherever that, that anxiety or whatever you want to, however it manifests, however that emerges, it tries to tell me that I should be doing something about it. I should be doing something to counteract it, alleviate it, head it off at the pass, whatever the case may be. And this morning, so I felt a big day coming, and I felt myself like, oh, am I prepared? Can I get enough stuff right that I can actually get myself through this, that I can actually kind of get myself through this big day. And I even had the impression at one point, I had this voice said to me, this might be the toughest day. This might be the hardest day. This might be the day where the most friction emerges. So I had that within me, and I thought, and so I'm just doing my routine this morning, and it was almost like it took physical effort not to move. It took physical effort not to go into action. And I noticed two things about that. One was just that. It was like a really powerful sensation of, wow, if I can center even as I have this much emotional and psychological kind of tug working on me, like it was like a gravitational pull, that's really centering. And I even had this sense. I was like, this is what transcendence is all about. This is transcendence, letting go of those impulses and staying in the core of my body. And then there was a kind of like next layer that came out, which was like I had this channel of energy just like shot up my spine. And it's kind of like, I mean, I have that in Qigong frequently, or relatively regularly, but this time it was like I felt where it was coming from. I was like, oh, I'm being charged with this energy, and it's kind of like jangling my system. And if I let my circuits overload and just go into action, then it's getting spilled. But as soon as I just settled in and let myself have a stable core, it was like my whole body filled up with energy. It was remarkable. It was like just so incredibly powerful, and it was a feeling of like, oh, that's how you channel energy. It's not a strictly physical process. There's a whole like pan-psychic, pan systemic process that happens. And it was just really cool to feel both the choice to what that choice did when I kind of put down those impulses, and then also to feel the physical repercussions of that. So then I go into rehearsal, and I always yawn. I've been at the computer too long. Then I go into rehearsal, and it was like we had a fantastic day. There was a proposal that came out from the director to change the ending of the play in a big way. Not so much to rewrite it, but to just restructure how things go. So good. It was like changed everything about how the last, 15, 20 minutes of the show are going to feel. And not only was the proposal really bold and really, really great, but there was no friction in implementing it. It was like we just cooked right through it. And I got to the end of the day, and I thought to myself, I thought this was going to be the toughest day of the process. And instead, it was a very intense day, but it was completely smooth. It was completely, everything happened just as it needed to. There was actually far less friction than I was anticipating. And there was just a sense of being on course. And I was like, wow, what if I did the work this morning? Like, what if that feeling of just not letting those impulses out, letting those patterned impulses, it wasn't like I was repressing something that really needed out. It was more like I was renouncing an impulse that I could tell was trying to mislead me, or was gonna, not mislead me, but was gonna take me, was gonna have me expending my energy and my psychic energy in ways that weren't going to be helpful. And it was such a powerful experience. But then when rehearsal was so smooth, it was almost like we with my collaborators, I call it the reality distortion zone. We call it the reality distortion zone, where it's like in the space of, we had 6 hours today. It's like the whole world shifted, the whole play shifted in a huge way. And feeling that happen with almost no friction, with the inevitable conversations and the inevitable considerations that came up were there, but there was no friction. There was no resistance from anyone. We all just kind of dug into what we needed to do and what we had, what that moment was about. And that was cool. And I had this weird sense as soon as the day was over. Actually, even before we got to the end of the day, I was like, because I could tell, like, I don't know, a half hour from the end, I was like, wait a minute, what just happened? We just blew the roof off the building, but there were no problems today. and I came back to what I did this morning, and the qigong, and the containing those impulses, the containing of those impulses, and then the energy that came from that. And it just was just another affirmation of the fact that when you're doing inner work, when you're doing spiritual work, we are doing work that has, not only does it have an effect on the world, it has such a powerful effect that we wouldn't even believe it if someone showed us evidence of it. We wouldn't even believe it because it has such a powerful effect that it's possible to overlook, because it's so gigantic that we don't even think to look at that. It's like it's shaping our life on the largest possible level. And yet, because it's shaping our life on the largest possible level, we often ascribe that power to something beyond ourselves, to something just out there magically happening to us, when actually it is, we can harness that, we can engage with it. We can't control it, really. It's not about control, but it's about very, very consciously engaging with the reality that's in front of us, literally creating it, and literally navigating that reality. Like when we are doing our spiritual practice, we are at the tiller of the ship, steering the ship. We think that when we're out there in the streets or in the rehearsal room or wherever it is that we do our work in the office, we think that that's where we're at the tiller of the ship, because that's where we're actually engaging, we're doing the thing, we're engaging with people, relationships, stuff, circumstances, actually sort of like, rubber meets road. But that's not the tiller of the ship in the biggest sense. There's a larger place. There's a broader and deeper and more powerful context from which we are steering that determines so much of that. And I'm simply staggered every time I witness that. And it even takes a day like today to drive it home to me and to remind me of that, to kind of ding, wake me up again into, oh, right, I remember, this is how it works. So it was a beautiful day, and it was not only a great creative experience, but also really, I think, important, experience in this work that I talk about on this post. And one of the things that also came through was, my God, I'm so grateful for this post. I'm so grateful for this practice, because this practice means that I show up every day and I reflect on what has happened and where I am headed, and where we as a group are headed, and now that I'm in a group setting. And it just puts it means that I'm bringing an awareness to the process that I otherwise simply wouldn't, and that comes out of this conversation. It comes out of this consistent discipline, this consistent practice. And to a large degree, it comes out of the conversations that I have with all of you. So it's it's huge. Truly, truly huge. So thank you. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.